Hello, and welcome to this installment of the Language Lab podcast. My name is Siad, and this is my video log podcast majig where I talk about what's happening in my language learning life. And today I wanted to share my shortest lived experiment so far. And that is my very short lived experiment with the language learning app or service Glossika. Now, this is not a review. This is simply a quick overview rather, of my experience and why I decided to no longer use the service as of right now in my language learning studies, in my language learning life. So I think people would describe Glossika in a lot of different ways, but I would describe it as audio flashcards. We'll go with that. If you've heard of or ever used Pimsleur, it could in a way remind you of that. You know, the intention behind both of these, Pimsleur and Glossika, is that you will listen and repeat. So it's, kind of call and response or recall and response. And I think that it is a really useful app for a lot of people. I think one thing that I am realizing and coming to grips with is that I am not really a person who learns using apps. I'm using Babbel, kind of, sort of. The one thing I do use somewhat consistently is WaniKani for Japanese kanji, and that's an anomaly. So I would say overall, I'm not an apps person when it comes to language learning. And with Glossika, I think you kind of have to like apps. You don't even have to look at Glossika while you're using it. You can just have the audio playing, like it'll play a sentence in your target language and you're supposed to repeat it. And I think it works. I mean, it's still, at the end of the day for me, it's that it's an app. And I'm not an app person. And I try to be. I really try. I try hard to be an app person. To use apps, to create streaks, to do all these things. But that's just not me. And Glossika is quite expensive for a person who is not an app person. I'm sure that a lot of people get really, really good use out of it. Like, I really like the idea of it, that it just feeds you a bunch of sentences for you to understand and to listen to and to learn to repeat and to really work on improving pronunciation. Like, I think the concept is great. I realized that it wasn't for me and that was not something that I was going to use or spend money on, especially not at this moment in time. Now, I'm thinking about using maybe some sort of other audio course, perhaps Pimsleur, but again, it's just not the same. It's really hard to explain why it's not the same, Pimsleur and Glossika, for me anyway. So I'm thinking about using that. My library does also have those courses available, so they would be free to me and I wouldn't have to pay for a subscription because, yes, like many of you, I am experiencing subscription fatigue, and so I don't need any more subscriptions right now. But yeah, that is how I feel at this moment, 2025, about Glossika. It was something I tried. It was something I had wanted to try. I've heard a lot about it. I've read reviews, watched video reviews, listened to people talk about it. And I think it works for some people. And if that's what works for you and you like apps and you want to learn languages like that, that's great. But as an experiment in that app is something I want to try. I've just learned that it is not for me. So that is my report on this short-lived experiment. It was about 2 months. So, I would love to know if you have ever tried Glossika, what you thought. Are there other apps, services that are similar? I think you can probably replicate, and I actually have seen people do this, replicate the Glossika experience in other apps. Anki is one of those. And so, again, I'm not really a flashcard person, with the exception of Wanikani, which is flashcards. Or at least I'm not a digital flashcard person. So yeah. But I would love to know if you have used this, if you've used services like Glossika. What do you think? Definitely leave me a comment. And I would appreciate, having the opportunity to interact with you. So that is this episode about that experiment. And I will see you soon with another episode, video log, audio log thing that I'm doing here. So thanks so much.